a house in Rockwall County, Texas. Police surrounding it, a search warrant in hand, and parked outside, an NBC camera crew rolling. Somewhere inside is a man who is about to become the reason the biggest crime franchise in network television does not survive the year. Nobody standing outside that door yet knows how this ends. The cameras do not stop rolling, neither does what happens next. Chris Hansen spent years as a network correspondent, filing the kind of stories nobody remembers the reporter's name from. Then one recurring segment changed that permanently. He became the guy who sat behind a kitchen counter and read strangers their own words back to them, calm as a bank teller, right before their entire life rearranged itself in real time. That format made him famous. It also had rules nobody outside the production had ever seen written down. That fame came with paperwork. 3 seasons on air earned Hansen a shelf of journalism's biggest trophies and left NBC staring down a lawsuit worth more than the show ever made in ad revenue, all from a man's death the network never expected to film. So, which one actually defines the legacy? Stick around, because even NBC's own lawyers never got a clean answer. Here's how that playbook actually worked. Dateline didn't send in cops or trained investigators. It partnered with Perverted Justice, a volunteer watchdog group whose members posed as 12 and 13-year-olds in chat rooms, then steered the conversation toward a rented house wired with hidden cameras. No badges, no warrants, no law enforcement training whatsoever. Just ordinary adults, doing the luring, handing NBC the tape. The most legally sensitive part of the entire operation was being run by people who answered to nobody but the network cutting the checks. Hansen would step out from behind that counter and let the confession play itself out before the man even realized he was in one. Once was compelling television. 12 times across 12 separate cities and 12 separate rented houses was a pattern with a production schedule. By the third house, local police stopped waiting for an invitation. They started staging their own arrests the moment a man walked out the door. Badge first, cameras still rolling. The show had built a machine nobody had designed to include handcuffs. It got them anyway. Audiences ate it up, night after night. Legal analysts watched the same tape and saw something else entirely. A private group manufacturing the exact temptation a man would later be arrested for acting on. Strip away the kitchen counter and the calm voice, and you're left with one uncomfortable question sitting underneath all those ratings. Was this catching a crime or building one from scratch? NBC didn't blink. Real arrests piled up behind those doors, then real convictions followed them into court, and the ratings just kept climbing right alongside the doubts. A segment built on public humiliation had somehow become required viewing, the kind of hit where the bigger the legal questions got, the bigger the audience got too. Award committees agreed. Somewhere along the way, a hard news résumé had been built almost entirely out of reality television, decoys and hidden cameras included, and it kept collecting hardware anyway. Murrows for broadcast excellence, clarions on top of those. Nobody in that room seemed bothered, and none of it had ever been tested though. Entrapment law exists to stop the state from manufacturing a crime it can then punish. And here was a group of unpaid volunteers doing exactly that, then handing the footage straight to a network with no oversight, no chain of custody, no accountability to anyone but the ratings. Defense attorneys started arguing exactly this in court, that a man induced into a fantasy by a stranger online wasn't the same thing as a man who'd sought one out. Every man before him had eventually opened that door. Bill Conrad didn't. An assistant district attorney back in Rockwall County, he'd spent months trading messages with a decoy posing as a 13-year-old. But when the moment came to drive to the house, he simply never showed. The formula had run 11 for 11. Man number 12 broke it. So the show did what it had never done before. It left the sting house behind. No decoy playing bait, no camera waiting patiently at a kitchen table. Just police and an NBC crew converging on Conrad's actual front door, serving a warrant live, on tape, to a man who'd already told them without a word that he wasn't coming out. The man on the other side had spent his career deciding who got prosecuted, who got charged, who walked free. Now, the same machinery was pointed at him. And there was no more paperwork left to file. Every option a district attorney usually has had quietly run out. The door never opened. Bill Conrad shot himself as police moved to force their way in. And the NBC crew that had been rolling since the Stinghouse days kept rolling for this too. What played at the start of this video was that moment, not staged, not dramatized. A camera crew filming a real death, live. NBC pulled the plug on the whole franchise that same year. Hansen's own explanation was almost bored. He told reporters the show had simply run its course, like ratings had quietly worn thin on their own. The calendar disagreed with him completely. A man had died on camera, and only after that did the format that made Hansen famous suddenly, conveniently, run out of course to run. A franchise that had lasted 4 years ended by a death it never planned to film. Conrad's estate didn't ask for a modest number. They sued NBC for $105 million, a figure that wasn't about lost income or hurt feelings. It was an argument that a television camera had effectively participated in a man's death, and someone owed for that. NBC never let a jury decide who was right. The case settled out of court, terms sealed, and the network that built a decade of ratings on other people's worst moments made sure its own worst moment stayed private. Hansen kept working. The format didn't die either. Smaller channels, YouTube, cable specials, all still running some version of the kitchen counter ambush without the network legal team and without the volunteers who started it. The trophies stayed on the shelf. So does the question nobody ever put in front of a jury. 10 Emmys across his career, $105 million in settlement, and one door that never opened. Make of that legacy what you will. The format certainly did.